Hello, my name is Brandon Sowers. I'm an assistant director for the Student Success Center at ASU, and I'm excited for today's topic where we are going to look at how you, as a Sun Devil, can excel academically at our university. So just to give you a little insight as to where we're going, today I'm going to offer you tips and advice for cultivating a growth mindset. We're going to explore a little bit of some of the academic differences that you are experiencing in college versus your time when you were in high school. We'll talk some tips and strategies to thrive at ASU academically, and then we'll also have a little bit of a dialogue about how you can best engage with faculty and professors. So let's first talk about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So what is a mindset exactly? A mindset is a self-perception or a self-theory that we all hold about ourselves. So for example, you might have said, I'm good at math versus I'm bad at math, or I'm not a good writer versus I'm a good writer, or I am good at sports versus I'm not good at sports. So it's this self-perception, this idea that we have about ourselves when it comes to doing or accomplishing things or making things possible. So a fixed mindset is a mindset that assumes that abilities, talents, and traits are fixed or innate. You're either born with it or you aren't, right? You are naturally born good at math, or you're simply not born with the skills to do math. A fixed mindset looks very narrowly at, I am either good at this because I was born with this habit, this talent, this trait, or I am not. And a growth mindset assumes that beliefs, that talents and abilities can be developed through effort, good teaching, and persistence. So it's this idea that I can become stronger in this. I can be good at whatever it is, whatever skill, whatever accomplishment, whatever it is that's in front of me, that I can learn how to be better in that area. So something that we want to know when we're thinking about growth mindset versus a fixed mindset is this note on neuroplasticity. So this is really fascinating. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to strengthen neurologic pathways and develop new neurological connections based on repetitive practices. So this is very, very science, very sciencey, but the takeaway, the bottom line is as we develop, our brains change, and we grow stronger and smarter the more we use them, right? So again, our brains are developing over time, and we can become stronger and smarter by challenging our brains to learn new things, by taking on new skills, by looking at ways that we can grow and become stronger in areas we're actually helping our neuroplasticity develop and pushing that forward. So how do you know if you've got a fixed mindset, right? How do you know if you're like in that place? So if you are maybe having a fixed mindset in some different areas, you believe that talent and intelligence is something you were born with, here are some things that might happen for you. You might avoid things that are challenging, that might feel a little bit scary, that might have some risk involved. If you are met with any kind of challenge with something new, you might give up easily. People with a fixed mindset sometimes feel threatened by others' success. You might feel a little jealousy of how quickly somebody picks up something that you are not picking up, right? You might view your grades and your GPA as a sole measure of your intelligence, looking at what you receive academically as an indicator of how smart you may be or how accomplished you may be. You might take feedback personally and get defensive. People with a fixed mindset sometimes don't view constructive criticism as a way to grow. They view it as a, not an attack, but almost like an indicator of your intelligence and an indicator of who you are. You might get discouraged from setbacks because you don't want to approach those challenges, and they might have you discouraged. And you might honestly stick with what you know. So you might stick with what you're strong in and avoid things in which you might need to grow because you feel comfortable in that area and you don't want to approach those other things. Signs of a growth mindset right here, here's a flower growing, is that you believe that intelligence and talent can be developed and you might embrace challenges and take risks. Those things don't scare you as much. You're willing to take on those things that you're not familiar with or that you're new to. You might view mistakes as a learning opportunity, right? If you have a growth mindset, you might see those mistakes as something that said, well, that happened, but what are some of the takeaways that I can take from that and really apply that to my life moving forward? Instead of feeling threatened by other successes, you feel inspired by other success. You pull from their success and model maybe some of the things that you saw or what you appreciated and apply that to your life. You're open to feedback, right? A growth mindset means you're open to hearing constructive feedback because you see it as a way to learn. You see it as a way to grow. You view setbacks as a part of the learning process, right? Acknowledging nothing is always easy. And when you're thinking about your academics, and there are certain things in which you might struggle, instead of looking at that as a setback, you look at the ways of here what I was able to accomplish and what I was able to grow. You're persistent if you have a growth mindset. You take charge of your learning. You say, this is an area in which I need to grow. What are my resources? How can I make sure that I can get connected to those so I can ensure that I am moving forward in my learning and my development? So I want you to take those as we continue our conversation today and ask yourself these questions of, do you have a growth mindset when it comes to your academics? Do you have a growth mindset when it comes to learning new things? Because college and your experience as an undergraduate student is all about learning new content and exploring areas of which you hope to work in the future and to cultivate and build all these skills. And it's really important to keep a growth mindset at the forefront of your mind. So I want to ask you some of these questions for you to think about as we move forward in our time together today. And already in your head, I want you to ask yourself, what are some academic differences that you know already that you're experiencing between high school and college? What are some different things that you've experienced that are very different, right? And then another question is, thinking of the time that you've had in class, what do you think might be the major differences between high school and college? So we'll just get right into it. So when you think about class time in high school versus college, in high school, you may sit in class for 6 to 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, which totals up to around 30 to 40 hours. School in high school is around, on average, 36 weeks a year, with shorter breaks for fall, winter, and spring. Looking at your class time versus college, you're sitting in classes for 12 to 16 hours a week if you're a full-time student, and your semesters are about 15 weeks long that begin in August for the fall and January for spring, right? So you're in class more hours a week in college with a shorter condensed time for the semesters for your experience. So you can already see the differences between what it's like to be in high school and what it's like to be in college, just based on hours a week and with the length of the weeks. So looking at your class sizes. In high school, you know that usually a cap on your class sizes is anywhere from 30 to 35 students. But as you've probably experienced if you've been in your college lectures recently, a lecture can have up to hundreds of students within the classroom, and an average class size may be 35 to 40, with labs for science classes being even smaller. So just taking a look at that class size, you can already anticipate there's going to be more people in a room. It's not going to be as intimate of an experience for most of my lectures, and I'm going to be working with a lot of people and learning alongside a lot of people in college versus high school. So let's talk about time management, right? What are some of the differences? Time management, what you might remember or have experienced in high school, is your classes are usually structured by your teachers, right? Like when you're in high school, they are setting the agenda for you for the entire time that you are with them within their classroom, and they are monitoring what activities you're working on and for how long, right? So when you're in high school, you may remember your teacher saying, all right, for the next 30 minutes, I would like for you to reflect on this, and then we're going to move forward with this. So someone is right there setting the pace, setting the time for you, and pushing you forward. And what you know is different now is in college, you are responsible for managing your time. submitting assignments by the deadlines listed in the syllabi, and keeping track of your attendance. So we use this image of you are definitely multitasking and moving things forward in a variety of different ways and keeping track of your assignments and keeping up with your course load. So what about homework and assignments? What are the differences that you're experiencing? And in high school, typically your teachers will remind you of your homework deadlines, what you need to finish, and what you should learn from the material. And most likely the assignments and homework will all be graded for credit, right? So again, in high school, you have someone who is reminding you of what's coming up, what you have missing, and what you need to learn. Here are all the objectives from the material. In college, it's different because you're responsible for that course syllabus, right? We talk about that a lot, is read your syllabus thoroughly, take a look at that, keep track of things like assignment deadlines, readings, and lecture materials. Not all assignments in college are graded for points, but professors will expect you to be prepared for any tests on the topic, right? Sometimes the things that you're being tested on might be what you learned all semester. So you have to make sure that you're keeping up with those different areas within your class to make sure that you're absorbing all the content, you're understanding the concepts, and you're able to remember certain things so that when you're ready to be tested on those, or you're ready to write about those, or whatever the case may be, that you're responsible for reading those and you are good to go. So what about asking for assistance from teachers or faculty? This is a huge, huge part of excelling academically, to be honest, because if you are not understanding, or you're not grasping concepts, or you're not picking up the material in a way, or you're not understanding the material in a way that you should, then your professors and your faculty are going to be there to do that. So assistance from teachers and professors looks different in high school, right? Because you have teachers who may walk around the room and they check on you to see if anyone needs help during that class. In college, your professors are usually open and happy to help you understand, but that is not always offered during a class session and during a lecture, right? So for you to get the one-on-one support that you need, that you might have received in a classroom setting in high school, in college, it means that you're going to have to be proactive a little bit and take a professor or a teaching assistant up on their office hours, because that's going to ensure that you're going to be able to go meet with them, ask those questions that maybe you're a little hesitant to ask in a classroom setting because you don't necessarily want to ask that question in front of a lecture hall of hundreds, right? So you can get the one-on-one support that you need in a office hour setting, completely away from that class, and they'll be able to give you the attention that you need. But again, it's up to you to take that step to let them know that you do need the support, that you do need the help, and they're there to help with that, and they're there to help provide that support for you. So what about studying? What are some of the differences from high school versus now, right? And in high school, during class, you're expected to read and be ready to discuss assignments. And maybe you're studying outside of class can be just a few hours a week, right? So in high school, we might read the content together, go over the content in class, answer questions, and be all on the same page. And then you might have a follow-up assignment that you have to do around that area outside of class, again, just a couple of hours. In college, you can be assigned any amount of reading, and there might be dozens of pages per week. So studying 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour spent in class is more realistic, right? So your professor may say, be ready to discuss the readings in our next lecture, have this amount of reading completed, and be ready to answer these questions. So it's really up to you to be able to make sure that you are dedicating some time to actually go over that content outside of class, and to put aside a couple of hours for you to be able to get caught up with the readings that you have and the different content that you're being asked to go over. So what about testing? How does that look in high school versus college? And what you may remember from high school is that you might be tested frequently to cover small amounts of information, right? So it's It's perhaps a chapter, it's perhaps a section, it's maybe smaller in that way. You may spend a month on a concept and then you're tested on it. In college, testing frequency just depends on each individual course, right? So the professor can set what testing is going to look like for their course. And some courses can have as little as 1 or 2 exams for the semester. And others may have an exam every other week. So it varies. So what I'm saying with this is you've got to be able to ensure that no matter how the testing is, that you're understanding the concept and that you're finding a way to actually remember and recall it, so that whenever it comes time to have the exams that you're taking, that you are able to do well and to remember and recall those concepts that you're learning. So let's get into some tips and strategies, right? So maybe you've been in high school 2 years ago, maybe you just left high school, this is your first year at ASU. Some tips and strategies for you to remember and for you to call back to that will be really helpful for you. So first and foremost, for you to excel academically, you've got to get on top of your scheduling. And there's some different ways that we recommend that you get on top of that. The first thing that you need to do is be realistic with yourself. Be flexible with your schedule and understand that things may change. We have worked with students who have come in and have started from scratch with an actual calendar for the week. So an open calendar, and then what they do is they go in and they dedicate time to complete their different coursework, right? They dedicate time to study. They actually schedule out their day. But be realistic in that with how much time you spend on each task, right? If you have, again, calling back, if you have dozens of pages to read, well, realistically, you're not going to be able to accomplish that reading in just 30 minutes, right? You're more than likely going to be able to accomplish that in a couple of hours. So be realistic with the time that you spend on each of your different tasks. Next, be intentional. Schedule out your day according to what you have to do and choose a platform that works best for you, right? A lot of students that meet with their success coach find that they like a Google versus a phone calendar, right? So they like to go to their desktop and they like to open up Google for their calendar online, and they like to see that versus using a phone calendar. Or some are what we would say, right, like not digital at all. They find that they like to be able to actually write out what their schedule looks like on a real planner. However you do that, just make sure that you're intentional with what your day looks like, so that you're able to, again, multitask with these different areas and make sure that you are spending adequate time. And then be strategic. This is so important that you are strategic. Be sure that you schedule in time that accounts for things like relaxation and things that don't involve schoolwork. That's so important because it can be easy to get in what we would call the grind of your academics, and you are just moving from project to project, from assignment to assignment, from reading to reading. And before you know it, you've utilized all of your time and you just sleep. And there was nothing in there for you to enjoy, for you to find relaxation with, for you to feel connected to other people. So it's really important that you are strategic and that you're scheduling that time that allows yourself those breaks to eat, those breaks to sleep, those breaks to hang out with people that give you energy, those breaks to do activities that fill you up. You can't run on empty. And then optimize your best working times. If you know that you are someone who in the morning just slays the day, you have all the energy, you start your day fresh, then that might be some time where you schedule out, okay, I'm at my best here, so I'm going to get into it the first thing, like after I get a breakfast in, I'm going to give some dedicated time because that's when my brain is on fire. If you're the opposite of that, and it takes you a little bit of time to get warmed up, then maybe you look at the afternoon. And looking at, all right, this is when I feel fully ready, and that's when my best energy is. Or perhaps even in the evening, maybe after you complete a day and you are back in your space, maybe that's when you come alive, right? So really be strategic with how you schedule your time. And more importantly, know your resources. You're not in this alone. at all. Your academics are important to you, but there are also others who care about how well you do academically and are there to support you. So it's not 100% up to you to learn all the content on your own. There's a team of people here to help you with your studies. So look into tutoring and utilize tutoring before you need it, right? Sometimes as you're learning new things, it can be good to go in and see a tutor before you're what we would call stuck, because as you're working through it, they can help you and validate that you're on the right track. And if you do run into an area where you're not sure, then they're able to support you right in the spot too, or able to show you shortcuts or able to show you a variety of different ways. Tutoring is free and offered at all 4 campus locations here in the Phoenix Valley, right? So you're able to get tutoring even virtually and even in person so that you can get that support that you need. Again, office hours, and these are going to be hosted by your professor and what we call your teaching assistant. And these hours are dedicated to you in order for you to ask any questions, for you to state concerns or ask for clarification, right? So those are typically listed in the course syllabi. So you can look at that and then actually go and take that professor up on those office hours so that you're able to learn and that you're able to ask those questions and get on the right track and feel comfortable and not feel behind. Also, a lot of courses will have extra sessions, and those sessions are there so that you can study with other people. They're what we would call supplemental instruction, right? SI and more. And you can utilize any extra time that might be organized and available for those study sessions, right? So this is kind of a way for you to go and for you to practice what you're learning, for you to be with other people that are also learning the same things, and for you to work together and to group study in a way that you're learning and you're hearing from everyone and you're working together to get on the same page. So just know those resources that are there for you and take them up when they're available. Continuing with this, think about going to a space where there's a lot of resources. So I want to specifically talk about some resources at the libraries. There are private study spaces that are amazing for you to be able to go in that you can check out using your ASU ID cards. And sometimes those spaces are sometimes equipped with whiteboards in order to take notes, or even large computer screens so that you can actually like throw content up in front of you and be able to work on that either privately or with other people in those spaces. So it's so helpful for you to go. Let's say you're not someone that studies well in your living space. Perhaps you have a roommate, perhaps you live in one of the residential halls and you just aren't able to get in the zone in that space. Well, going to these study spaces on campus is really helpful for you to get away from some of the noise, some of the distraction, and really be with some time to dedicate to your study. Next, ASU Libraries offers research support. So you can actually go and get help finding information that you're working on. There's guidance offered through what they say and call the research cycle, from planning to data storage and finding ways to maximize the quality, productivity, and accessibility of research here. There's a lot of information within ASU libraries, and the librarians themselves are just really, really helpful in helping you start your search and get you connected to the information that you need. So the other resources, the library is more than just books. It includes resources such as the map and geospatial hub, makerspace, printing and copying, and the interlibrary loan. So it's beyond just a place to go and check out books. It's beyond just a place to go and study in one of the study spaces. There's a lot of resources at the library that can really, really help you. And next, discover your learning style. So when we say this, what's really helpful is knowing your learning style can help you better retain information and help you choose classes that work to your advantages. Learning styles, what we want to say here is that they're not concrete though, and that they can be switched around for different topics and activities. So here's a variety of different learning styles. Maybe you are an auditory learner. And if you're an auditory learner, you would rather listen to information than read it or visualize it. And it sometimes might be helpful for you to talk about that information with somebody else. You might be a visual learner. Visual learners best absorb when they're able to see and visualize concepts. So things like maps, charts, diagrams, essays, visual content for you really helps you understand and retain that information. You might be a read/write learner. You might get information by reading it and then writing it, and condensing and rephrasing it in your own way can really help you retain that information. Maybe you are a kinesthetic learner, and you learn best by doing, and you might get fidgety, perhaps sitting for extended periods of time, listening for extended periods of time, might get you a little bit anxious, a little bit fidgety. And as a kinesthetic hands-on learner, being physically engaged with something might help you retain that information. So here's some classroom strategies that we want to offer. Seating is so important for large lectures, even though you might not like to do this, but for large lectures, we recommend try to get as close up front as possible so that the classroom feels smaller and you have less distractions. When you're sitting in a classroom with hundreds of people and you are at the back, you are taking in everything that everybody is doing in front of you, as well as trying to connect with the content that is going to be in front with the professor and the screen. So there's so many opportunities for distractions, and folks might be on their laptops, they might be on their devices. There's so much, your brain might not be able to take it. So try to sit up front, try to find your space a little bit closer so that you can begin to filter out all of those other distractions. So even if this isn't like you and you don't like to necessarily be up front, we challenge you to find that space when it's available so that I can help you. Next, study groups. Everyone in your class is trying to learn the same thing in Excel. So it makes so much sense to be in a team of people, to be in a group of people, and really working together for those study sessions. Find those study groups. Sometimes those study groups happen just naturally, right? Like you might be sitting next to somebody and they're talking to somebody next to them, and suddenly, hey, you want to get together and learn this content is something that can happen. Sometimes you can just ask people if they'd like to form a study group with you, and then you create one independently and you meet up in different places. So really try to form those groups so that you can group work together and accomplish that classwork and get those study sessions done. It's also not related, but sort of related. A lot of friendships can come from those study groups, and a lot of camaraderie can happen there, and a lot of like getting to know each other. Next, we want to encourage note-taking. Ask yourself, how do you learn notes better? How do you learn content better? Do you learn better because you're writing it on a notebook and you're writing that as you hear it? Or are you someone that likes to type notes as you see it, and you collect everything that you need by typing it? Now is a great time. We are only a couple weeks into the semester, 5 weeks into the semester. Now's a great time to find that out and to really make sure that you are taking notes in a way that's going to help you retain that information and help you keep your thoughts organized. Maybe you are better able to keep it organized written versus on a computer, or vice versa. So ask yourself those questions. So lastly, one of the biggest things that we can help you in excelling academically is to help you engage with your faculty in a meaningful way. Your professors will be the first to say that they're not scary. They enjoy connecting with you. They want to get to know their students beyond the assignments that they submit and beyond the grades that you're receiving and the in-classroom setting. They want to get to know you a little bit more. So here are some tips, what we would consider some faculty staff etiquette. So as you're engaging with faculty, we want to remind you to be polite and friendly, remain professional, whether you're communicating via email or if it's in person, right? So as you approach them in the classroom, as you approach them via email, make sure that you're taking some time to write in a way that is professional and mature, and have that in your head as you're developing that correspondence, or you're about to approach a professor in class or during their office hours. So it's best to prepare for these conversations and engage with them. Have a list of questions or an idea of what you are struggling with or what you want to discuss. right? So if it is something that you're struggling with or content that you're not understanding, or if it's maybe an opportunity you heard of, or you have an idea for an assignment or whatever the case may be, have that prepared and ready so that you're able to recall what you want to talk about and that you're able to get through what you are asking. Most importantly, don't ask questions you can answer yourself, right? So that syllabus, your professor works really hard to develop and goes through a lot of different approvals and is looked at very thoroughly and has every deadline, every assignment, everything that you need, including most often extra credit opportunities too. So make sure that you are looking at that thoroughly and that if something is there for you, you are aware of it, because the time that you have with your professor should be a meaningful experience and not just something that they can refer you to the syllabus for support. Always keep in mind, we hear this a lot in the Success Center. By you approaching your faculty or professional staff, you're not bothering anybody. Everyone here at ASU that works with students is here to support you, and we want you to succeed. And we are 100% in your corner and happy to help you. So remember that you're not bothering faculty or staff when you ask for support. It is our jobs. It is something that we are committed to, and we're committed to your success as a Sun Devil. So yeah, extinguish that little thought in your mind. Don't let that stop you from approaching us for help. Because if we don't know that you're struggling, we're not able to fully support you. So that is really important, that you are just vulnerable, but open and ready to have someone in your corner, and that is faculty and staff. Another thing, wait patiently for responses via email or through your campus. So as professional staff, as faculty, we have lives of our own, we have multiple responsibilities. Sometimes you might wait 24 to 48 hours before you receive a response. So plan ahead for any deadlines. It's really important that you plan ahead with your communication. Sometimes things can be helped and you need to reach out to your professor and it's right before a deadline because something came up or there's something challenging you or something in the way. And those things are understandable, but you might not always receive a response automatically. You might not always receive some feedback automatically. So just remember that your faculty and staff are supporting a lot of students at the university. So we are here to support you, and we will definitely get to you when we're able to. And then feel free to connect with your academic advisor for support, right? So you have an academic advisor that you work with for your courses. And if you have questions regarding academic policies, maybe you're considering withdrawing from a course, maybe you want to appeal a grade, you want to explore your options, your academic advisor is absolutely there to help you and support you and answer any questions that you have that maybe your professor or maybe your TA are not necessarily able to get to right away. And then let's talk about sustaining the relationship, right? So we've talked about, as you engage with professors or faculty staff, how you seek support. Here's a way that you sustain a relationship and you build one, right? So say hello to your professors or TAs outside of class or professional staff outside of class. If that's your professor, if you're in line at Burger King and that's your professor, say hello, say hi, how are you doing? Remember that we're all on this together. We're all human, and we value building relationships with each other. So something as simple as a hello or a hi or small talk in between classes can really help you build that relationship. And then take this as an opportunity to learn. So if a faculty is teaching a course, they're professionals in their field and they can offer advice and tips about not only their career, but also their field of interest, right? So they're not just their role, they are representatives of their field and they have expertise in that. So maybe you heard something that they said that you're interested in learning more about. You want to know a little bit more of their journey or journeys that others in their field have experienced. Well, this is an opportunity for you to ask those questions. And next, stay in touch. As you're thinking of maybe grad school and you're going to need a reference, or you're going to need a reference for professional employment, be sure to keep in touch with your professors that you have built and cultivated a relationship, right? If you have a good relationship with the professor, you should stay in touch. You should keep that relationship going, because you might need to reach out to them to ask for support as you pursue other opportunities. And that is all that we have for you today. We hope that this was helpful, and we look forward to providing you more in our student success series online workshops. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.